Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. The Friday afternoon feature race at Churchill Downs is the prestigious Grade 1 Clark Handicap. Let's take a peek at this field. 9 expected to participate. The morning line favorite on the outside. The speedy number 9, Diversify, Matt, and this horse has really come into his own for Rick Violette in his last 3 starts. 4 out of his last 5 races have resulted in triple-digit Beyer speed figures, and he just scored his first Grade 1 in the Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Did so in gate-to-wire fashion. There's a real scenario that exact same scenario plays out here in the Clark. He's just way the horse to beat. Breaking from the outside, Arad Ortiz, you don't really have to worry much. He's not a bad gate horse or anything like that. He's going to go off to the front. Is who is going to keep him honest, if anyone.
That's really the key to this race, because turning back to a mile and an eighth, well, that should work in Diversify's benefit. And as we take a look at the Timeform US pace projector, our friends at Timeform US believe that Diversify is as elusive as he wants to be on a fair pace up front. And if that's the case, he's going to be tough to run down. This New York bred, again, has really come into his own. But when you watch the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and he was 7-2 that day against an okay field, boy, he did have the easiest of times.
Oh, he did. But I guess the thing of it is, though, I felt like this was a horse that was slowly coming along. And I say slowly, I mean his third lifetime start, he earned a 100 Beyer speed figure. He's always been good. It was a matter of finding out if he could do it against open company. He passed that test last time, albeit with a soft sort of pace scenario. There's a real chance he gets it again Friday.
Your number 1 son is the number 1. Opportunity. You won the Clark way back in 2014, just missed when second in 2015. He was actually 4th in this race last year behind Gunrunner. Opportunity has had a start and stop campaign for Bob Baffert, only 3 races this year. He went away for a long time after the Dubai World Cup, came back in the comma to the top stakes, and when he was entered, we just thought, boy, it seems like 2014 all over again. When you and I were at Santa Anita for Breeders' Cup weekend, and Opportunity was entered off of a pretty long layoff in a prep. And after that race, which he finished second, you were like, he's going to win the Clark. He did. This time, he finished second in the prep. Here he is in the Clark. Did he get enough out of that race?
I don't know if he got enough, or if I'm at the point where even if he did get enough, boy, with all these sort of stops, keep in mind, he's had a couple of hiccups. He's had a leg injury way back when he was a 3-year-old, and now this long time away after the Dubai trip. I wonder at 6, soon to be 7 years old, is he quite the same Opportunity as we had seen in the prior years? If he's not, I don't think he can win. If he is, he's got a puncher's chance.
But don't take him off that last race alone. 97 Beyer. It was merely a prep race off the long layoff. The question is he the same horse? He's getting up there in years. He's still pretty good, and we know he likes Churchill Downs. We know he likes the Clark Handicap. Honorable Duty does not like a wet track. I think it was apparent after his last start, the Grade 2 Fayette, where he went off as the 7-5 favorite and just did not fire at all, unlike Honorable Duty. His last 3 races over fast tracks, though, have resulted all in triple-digit Beyer speed figures and 2 graded stakes wins, including the Lucas Classic over course and distance, and I liked the way he won that race.
Yeah, he was very visually impressive. I thought it was a good effort. The question now becomes, Corey Lanerie, what do you do? How do you play this? Because you know that Diversify is going to go, and if he's the horse to beat, does Honorable Duty let him get too far ahead, or is he the one that's forced to be in sort of that chase and press mode?
I think the plan for both the 8 Honorable Duty and the 7 the Player is to both leave running. Make Arad Ortiz really hustle Diversify to get the front going into the first turn. I think both of the jockeys, Calvin Borrell on the Player, Corey Lanerie on Honorable Duty, both realize that Diversify will eventually make the lead. But I think it's better for them and for everybody else if they at least make Diversify work to clear going into the first turn, and then they take up the 2nd and 3rd spot.
I think that's probably the way that they should be playing it, and the good news is, really, those are your outside 3 runners, so even if for some reason Honorable Duty, maybe they're content taking back, or maybe he just doesn't break all that sharp, which isn't a problem for him, but you know that the Player and Calvin Borrell, I would imagine you're going to do something similar to what you did in the Fayette, where they pushed Neolithic throughout and eventually took over from him. I wonder if they use him as well early.
The Player, we liked him a little bit last time out in the Fayette. He was able to sit just off a really moderate pace set by the runner-up Neolithic, and I have a feeling that wet track moved the Player up slightly, but I liked the way he won it. They were 10 lengths clear of McCracken way back in 3rd. It was the fastest race of his life. He's got to improve a little bit because he's never Beyered 100, but if he does leave and get into a nice stalking rhythm, we know he likes Churchill Downs and the distance isn't an issue.
He's a very difficult sort of assessment for me, because was it the wet track that moved him up, or was it finally getting out to 2 turns as he continues to mature? I think there's some talent here. I think he's a nice horse. I wonder if this is maybe a little bit too much.
Where does Mo Tom fit in here? He's 20-1 on the morning line. Occasionally he runs a nice race, usually against lesser competition. The Ohio Derby of 2016 is his most recent win, but occasionally he does run well. It's interesting that Tom Amoss takes the blinkers off after 5 unsuccessful races in the hood.
I think he's a one-turn horse, and unfortunately I don't think he's good enough to run in a race like the Cigar. You're home here, this is home cooking, might as well take a shot. I don't like his chances.
Destin just missed by a nose in the 2016 Belmont Stakes, and it looks like the Todd Pletcher has finally gotten him back to form. He won at Saratoga 3 starts back at this distance over Seeking the Soul, a horse we'll talk about in a moment, and I liked what he did last time out. They stretched him all the way out to 14 furlongs for the marathon on Breeders' Cup weekend. He sat right off the pace. I thought it was a rock-solid victory over an okay, not great field. Perhaps Destin is getting back to what he used to be, and what he used to be was okay, but I wonder if at this point of his career he's going to be that long distance runner.
I think he's a stayer. I think he's the kind of horse you look for next year, maybe a race like the Brooklyn at 1.5 miles, or that Greenwood Cup at Parks where 1.75 miles. I just feel like that's actually what his game is now, really long.
Goatstown earned his career best buyer most recently at Keeneland, winning over Singing Bullet, who came back to sort of verify that number by earning a 92 in his own right against non-winners of 2 other than. He's tough to like.
Very tough in this one.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Grade 1 Clark Handicap. Tell me about Seeking the Soul, a horse I've always tried to make a good one. I've finally written him off, and what did he do last time out? He broke the track record at Keeneland, 103 buyer. He won by 100.
I know he didn't beat a very good field that day, but I thought he did it the right way. He was a little bit late with the lead change, but if you believe that that's what he is, now keep in mind, he's only won 4 times, and 2 times they've come at Keeneland. Keeneland can be a bit of a horse for course surface, so maybe he just loves it in Lexington. To me, that run 2 starts back in the Lucas Classic, I understand Honorable Duty was out there and maybe he's just a better horse. He was on a pretty soft lead, all things considered, as well. And Seeking the Soul got shuffled back, was in last, was really under a hard hold, finally got out very late with the lead change. I just wonder, and maybe I'm trying to be too optimistic, if it's just taken him a long time to figure this whole thing out. We've always thought he could run a little bit. I don't think it wasn't a ridiculous placement for him in a race like the Belmont coming out of that maiden score. It hasn't been a ridiculous idea to run him in some of these graded stakes races. I think it's just taken him a little while to figure it out, and if he finally has figured it out and turned the light bulb on, you believe that 103, the 127 Timeform US rating, he fits in here.
6-1 on the number 2 Seeking the Soul. Matt's going 2, 9, 8, and 3. I'm going to take one more shot with the number 3, Good Samaritan, who won his dirt debut in the Grade 2 Jim Dandy at this distance at Saratoga. And a lot of folks are going to think, well, the pace horses just ran each other into ground. It's set up for Good Samaritan. It's possible. I thought the race was okay, and enough folks did that he was the favorite in the Travers. And I was just so surprised that he fell so far behind in the early part of that race. I don't think he has the sustained run of a true 10-furlong horse. He started moving, entering the turn of the Travers, and he kind of flattened out a little bit behind a good 3-year-old in West Coast. Jockey Club Gold Cup, don't think he would have won with a clean trip. Don't think he was helped much by the ride. He and Keen Ice were at the back of the pack, and they both started moving at the same time. And just from the looks of the jocks, it looked like this one was moving a little bit better than Keen Ice. And the next thing you know, while Keen Ice went around, this horse got bottled up in behind horses. He had to re-rally again, and that's a lot again for a horse that doesn't have a sustained burst. I like him coming back to 1 1/8. I don't like his running style. He needs somebody to push the pace setter.
That's the problem. Any of these horses come from off of it, they need someone to go and diversify early. I agree with everything you said, though, particularly about the Jockey Club, where he got shuffled there, and I think that little steadying didn't help his cause. 1 1/8, this is his distance.
Going to have to take on older horses for the first time. 8-1 on the 3 Good Samaritan, 3-9-2-7 for me in the Grade 1 Clark Handicap. It's a race number 11 at Churchill Downs the day after Thanksgiving. Approximate post time 5:56 Eastern. Good luck.